Hello, my name is Rhiannon Ramirez. Myself, along with Brandon Otteson, Dalen Bailey, and Olatunji Adowu, comprise DBRO. We represented Team E in Industry 2 of the BSG strategy game. The graphic on this slide shows the strategic group map for the North America segment in year 11. Indicated by Team E in purple, DBRO initiated a broad differentiation strategy from the onset of the simulation. This strategy included producing the maximum number of models at a medium style quality rating of 6. Because we were the first to employ a broad differentiation strategy, this allowed us to be first place in the industry for the first few years due to our first mover advantage. Further analyzing the strategy of DBRO, we placed a large emphasis on marketing and brand building activities, regularly finishing among the top spenders in the industry in all 4 regions. We also chose to invest heavily in production-related research and development, which included maximum spending on TQM and Six Sigma in the early years, which helped contribute to a lower reject rate in our production facilities. DBRO pursued continuous quality improvement, both in style quality rating and the value we delivered to our shareholders. After consulting with Dr. Harris following year 13, we made a more concerted effort to monitor and minimize distribution and warehouse costs. The graphic you are now seeing represents the strategic group map at the end of the simulation in year 17. As you can see, the style quality for the industry has increased dramatically, and competition was fierce, with the majority of the other teams also pursuing similar broad differentiation strategies. DBRO maintained the same broad differentiation strategy throughout the simulation, and despite some challenges and setbacks, remained a strong competitor in this industry. I'm now going to pass you over to Brandon, who's going to discuss the results of the simulation, starting with net revenues.
Brandon Otteson here with Team DBRO. Team DBRO came out really strong, and it showed in net revenues, market share, and it showed in investor expectations. We started gross revenues in year 11 at $702 million. This jumped to $944 million and $998 million in the next 2 years. A slight decline to $966 million before we made a comeback to $1.1 billion, followed by another dip to $1.0 billion, before a record-breaking year of $1.2 billion. We had a broad differentiation strategy that had us focusing on internet and wholesale with a large variety of shoes. And we really tried to push our SKU rating to a reasonable level and minimize the number of rejections. Utilization of production, we maxed out at 120% and we kept it there. This caused a lot of overtime pairs in the private label sector, and it got expensive for us. However, our margin over direct costs in this sector grew from about 5.32 to about 16.78. Year 13 and 14, our revenues hit a plateau, going from $998 million to $966 million, losing some market share, and an over 50% drop in private label revenue. We were struggling with our Europe-Africa segment with no production facility there, and year 13 seen an increase of exchange rates by $3 per pair, as well as production costs up $5 per pair from the previous year, as well as an increase in tariffs. It was also around this time we increased our marketing budget to make up for a lack of celebrity endorsements. All of this hit our bottom line really hard, yet we managed to hold on tightly in the wholesale market. We had another drop in revenues in year 16 after losing a significant portion of market share in the wholesale segment. some of which we were able to recoup in year 17. This was after we attempted to double down on our efforts in the private label sector, as we had seen some opportunity to make some gains there, in which we were successful. This paid off for us. Even though revenues were down, our net profit increased 15.8%, which ended up being our third best year. Earnings per share met investor expectations year after year. We came out strong, however, we found out that there was multiple companies hot on our heels. Beginning at $7.38, dropping slightly to $7.02, then $7.06, followed by a steady increase to $8.50, $10.11, and $11.16 for the final 3 years. EPS is a formula that takes net income and divides it by the number of available shares, and is a measurement of how profitable a company is on a per share basis. However, it's important to note that this is a multivariable equation, and certain assumptions must be made. For instance, increased revenues does not always equate to increased earnings per share. It also means that fluctuations in shares can have a positive or negative impact on the number. The effects of these variables are shown in year 13 and 14, with our increase in revenue, which was met with a stagnant EPS, mainly due to higher associated costs and lower net income. It's also reflected in year 16 when we lost revenue compared to the previous year. However, because we were able to control costs, we still had a good increase in net income. The adjustment to our strategy in year 16 not only allowed us to capture market share in the private label sector, but subsequently increased profits and EPS for that year.
Hi, this is Dalen Bailey from Team DBRO. Stock price is a function of EPS growth, ROE, credit rating, dividend per share growth, and management's ability to consistently deliver good results. In years 10 through 12, we saw an increase in our stock price, which we are attributing this to having a good balance between supply and demand given available production capacity. There was also an 18.9% greater than projected global demand, which helped increase revenues from $432 million in year 10 to well over $944 million in year 12. In years 12 through 14, we saw a decline in our stock price, which we're attributing this to the fact that as demand continued to increase, we decided to increase our SQ rating, which increased costs and decreased our net revenues. This increase in cost ate into our revenues, which dropped EPS from 39.6 in year 12 to 27.8 in year 13. To make up for the increase in associated costs, we also decided to increase our prices. In years 14 through 16, we saw an increase in our stock price, which we're attributing this to the fact that we increased our marketing from 31.6 in year 13 to 33.1% in year 2014, which increased our market share from 10% in year 14 to 12.3% in year 15. Also, our ROE increased from 28.1% in year 15 to 29% in year 16, whereas our EPS increased from $8.50 in year 15 to $10.11 in year 16. Hi, this is Dalen Bailey from Team DBRO. Company C was an effective competitor in all segments except for private label, which they did not venture into. Company C had the same product breadth of 500 pairs, similar brand advertising expenditures, and also had the same broad differentiation strategy. Company C had an ROE of 28.4, whereas we had an ROE of 28.1. They also had an A credit rating, whereas we had an A plus credit rating. Although Company C had higher revenue on the internet segment, slightly lower revenue on the wholesale segment, We believe they missed revenue opportunities on private label, which eventually helped propel our total revenue over theirs. Company C also had very similar profitability measures. The gross profit margin was 53.6, whereas we were at 52 even. Their operating profit margin was 21.1%, whereas we were at 23.1%. Their net profit margin was 13.7%, whereas we were at 15.9%. Hi, this is Dalen Bailey with Team DBRO. When examining market share, we understand that it is not a given or even true that one, the company with the highest market share in a segment also earned the highest profits in that segment, and two, companies with above average market shares in a segment earn higher profits than those with lower market shares. So with this knowledge, our competitive strategy for the future in regards to internet and wholesale markets would have followed a 4-step approach. 1. Growing our market share of branded pairs sold in all regions. 2. Improving our SQ rating of pairs offered for sale in all regions relative to the regional average. 3. Increasing our company's expenditures for retail support relative to the regional average. And 4. Shorten the delivery time in all regions. We would have kept our strategy unchanged in the private label market because Company C did not venture into this market.
Hi, my name is Olatunji Ido for Team DBRO. Over the past 6 weeks, my team and I have been working on this simulation, and we make a lot of analysis, we make a lot of review, and we took some wonderful decisions. Some decisions turned out to be good and some not pretty good. So I'm here this afternoon to just highlight some of the lessons we learned so far. And the first part of the lessons learned is that we should take advantage of the private label to increase our return. As competition increased in the wholesale and internet segment, we noticed that the demand in the private label was under supply, despite the excess production capacity in the industry. And then that brings us to number 2 of the lesson learned. We discovered that we should be aware of our competitors' strategy. As many of our competitors employ the game strategy, it makes the competition in price, marketing, celebrity endorsement really strong. Some of them are smart as also they invest more on that part, and the competition was very stiff at that point, at that particular point. Also on competition strategy, competitors build production facilities and added production equipment at a rapid pace in the early years, which led the potential for supply to a significant outpaced demand. As a result of this deterred our team from building additional facilities in the early years, but as the demand of our footwear increased, we did not have the facility to keep up with the demand. And then the third aspect of the lesson learned is that we should build production facilities in the anticipation of future demand. Due to lack of production pace equipment followed year 15, we are forced to increase price because our competition facilities could not keep up with the current demand at the previous year price point. And then because of that, we are able to increase our price profits, and then this increased our profit margin. And because of that, it has a negative effect at our brand reputation and our market share in the industry, which is not too good for us. I didn't mean that we invest more production space early enough, we could have avoided the price increase all through and maintained our brand image and potentially further our market shares. And then that brings us to number 4, that in the early years, we should be more aggressive for celebrity endorsements. Because as the simulation went on, the cost of celebrity endorsements significantly increased, which is pretty much expensive to load down the strip. And then lastly, further investment early in the game will have helped us to maintain the top spot in the industry. And it's been a wonderful 6 weeks of intense investment, intense analysis, but it's fun, and we're able to learn a lot that we can apply into the real business world. Thank you very much.